15 tips and tricks to memorize things faster. Do you ever find yourself complaining about how poor your memory is? Did you ever have difficulty with remembering even the simplest things like a grocery list or a phone number? Or are you having trouble with more challenging tasks such as grad-level course materials? If you answered yes to any of these questions, here are 15 tips and tricks to memorize things faster. Number 1. Try to understand what you are memorizing. Understanding the material you are trying to memorize is one of the simplest yet very effective tips. Information that you understand and that is organized and makes sense to you is easier to memorize. Research shows that things you make sense of are memorized 9 times faster than those you simply try to remember by heart without thinking it through. Understanding is vital to quick learning because people come across a lot of information all the time, and not all of them are equally important to us. If we pay attention to something long enough for it to make sense to us, chances are much higher that we are going to remember it. Number 2. Teach what you learn to someone else. It takes true mastery in something for you to teach it to someone else. By explaining something to another person, you are forced to think it through and to elaborate on it, which enhances retention significantly. Sharing your recently learned knowledge is an efficient way to further solidify the new information in your brain. You can even do this by making a test for someone else. Take the material you have and make several types of questions: multiple choice, matching questions, essay questions, as if you are testing someone's knowledge. This is also an effective way because it requires more involvement with the information. Number 3. Try the spaced repetition technique. Spaced repetition technique is a well-documented way to improve retention. It is based on the fact that in order to remember something for a longer time, you need to transfer it from your short-term memory, where it is while you are actively working on it, to your long-term memory, where it can stay for a long time, even if you are not currently thinking about it. A good way to do this is repeating what you have to learn several times across different time periods. For example, you repeat it right after learning, then after 30 minutes, then after 1 day, and after 2 weeks. This is how you ensure maximum retention. Number 4. Learn about the serial position effect and how to use it. The serial position effect is a well-established psychological principle of learning, and it can be very useful, especially when learning lists, like a grocery list, for example. Psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus explained it. This effect represents the tendency of a person to recall the first and last items in a series best, and the middle items worst. You can use this effect with remembering lists. You can create a list in a way that the most important stuff is put either in the beginning or at the end of your list. That way you are ensuring that you remember important things best. It is a simple trick, but it can work wonders if you learn how to use it. Number 5. Write down what needs to be memorized multiple times. People are more likely to remember notes you write by hand than those you type, for example. This fact has physiological explanations. The act of writing is a physical act that requires certain movements of your hand and fingers, and it stimulates cells at the base of your brain. This stimulation means paying more attention to what you are doing because your brain is more active when writing. Also, we usually write information in our words, which requires cognitive processing, which in turn improves understanding, and we have already shown that better understanding leads to better memorizing. Number 6. Relate new things to what you already know. Things that you already know have a marked space in your brain. By relating new information to well-known things, you are sort of sticking new info to the old one and ensuring better retention of the new material. It becomes less unknown to your brain, and you recall it more easily. Connecting new information to prior knowledge in your long-term memory gives your brain more than one way to trace this new information when you need it, which makes it easier to retrieve when needed. Number 7. Try some of the mnemonic tricks. Specific memory techniques can help you improve your memorizing of anything you're learning. Mnemonic technique is a way to aid memory, which consists of referring the information we want to remember to an image or a word. We connect things we want to memorize to certain images or often a rhyme, and then by remembering the image or the rhyme, we recall the thing we aimed to memorize. Some of the most common mnemonics include making acronyms. For example, it is useful to know how to treat a sprain. You should rest the injured area, ice the sprain, compress with a wrap or bandage, elevate the injured area. But it is easier to remember this as rice, isn't it? Number 8. Use the benefits of chunking information. Chunking refers to the process of taking individual pieces of information and grouping them into larger units. By grouping each data point into a larger whole, you can improve the amount of information you can remember. Chunking helps us overcome the natural limitations of our memory and is therefore a very powerful trick for helping you to learn all kinds of information. Next time you are trying to remember your grocery list, don't try to recall all of it at once. Try chunking it into smaller groups based on, for example, the type of food they represent. Number 9. Try out the power of visualization. You may have heard that someone says he or she is a visual type of learner. This usually means that person remembers pictures better than words. It is a well-known psychological fact. Some people are so much better in remembering visual material that they use this advantage in learning any kind of content by transferring it or linking it to images. Images are important because they connect directly to your brain's visuospatial centers. If you need to remember your hotel number is 421, you can visualize 4 kids playing with 2 dogs and 1 ball, for example. Number 10. Know when to take a break or even a nap. Being well rested has a great impact on your ability to memorize. For your brain to function properly, it needs to be rested. You need to have a good night's sleep for your brain's chemical processes to function as they should. Also, when you are memorizing something, you should take well-timed breaks in order to let your brain retain what you have just learned. Some researchers suggest taking a 15-minute break for every 30 to 45 minutes of learning for best results. Research also shows that the rate of forgetting is slower when sleeping, so it is good advice for you to learn something important right before you go to sleep. Number 11. Give the Memory Palace a try. A memory palace is a specific memory-enhancing technique that may sound difficult, but when properly applied, it can make wonders. This technique requires visualizing a familiar place, your house for example, and using it as a visual space where you can deposit images of things that you want to remember. This technique can help with remembering unrelated items, like a grocery list. To use the Memory Palace technique, visualize your place and then imagine items from your grocery list in different areas around the place. This technique needs practicing, but when mastered, it will allow you to memorize virtually unlimited amounts of information. Number 12. Avoid distraction and multitasking when memorizing. In this technical era we live in, we multitask as a way of living. We are on our phones and answering an email while eating at our desk. But it is proven that while multitasking is a handy ability, it means that our limited capacities are stretched across several tasks, which means we are not doing any of them the best we can. It may pass if those tasks are something we are well versed in, but if it is something like memorizing new info, it is best that you stick with one task at a time. Number 13. Read out what you want to remember. It may sound strange, but reading out loud the material you are trying to memorize can be an effective memory booster. When you study by reading aloud, your sense of hearing aids the memorization process, because when you hear yourself talk, it improves your cognitive abilities, attention, and comprehension. All of these have a great influence on improving the memorization process. Research published in the journal Memory finds that the act of reading and speaking text aloud is a more effective way to remember information than reading it silently or just hearing it read aloud. The authors of this study from the University of Waterloo in Canada report that the dual action of speaking and hearing yourself speak helps the brain to store the information so that it becomes long-term memory. Number 14. Make flashcards and study them often. Making flashcards while learning is often used, especially in the student population. This is a useful technique because it requires active recall from you. You are not passively reading a chapter in a book without engaging. Rather, you are actively searching for the answer in your brain when you see the front side of your flashcard. Every time you search and successfully find the answer in your brain, you make a better path to it, which makes it easier to trace it the next time. Number 15. Don't forget the importance of preparing your brain for memorizing. It is important that you maintain certain habits that help you keep your brain at its maximum level of functioning so that you can memorize faster. For example, working out and drinking green tea are excellent memory boosters. Also, there are some factors of the environment that can help your brain do its magic. You should create an environment free of distractions like TV or your phone, because they interfere with the memorizing process greatly. These were some of the tips and techniques that can improve your memory and help you memorize information fast. Some of them require some practice, and others are simple yet still effective. Whatever your troubles with memorization are, of whatever you want to memorize fast, all of these tricks are worth trying out and could make a real difference in your memory. Before you leave, our team will be very happy if you can give this video a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe and click the notification bell so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.